It's 6 p.m. We'll call this meeting to order. We will start with Section 3A, Pledge of Allegiance by Member Miller-Zarnicki. Next, we'll move to Section 3B of the agenda to report on action taken in closed session. In closed session, the board approved the following confidential student matter. Matter number 1, student number ending in 92742. We'll now move to Section 3C of the agenda. Are there any public comment cards? Thank you. We will move on to Section 3D, Superintendent comments. Dr. Moore?
It's wonderful to see a full house tonight, so welcome everyone. And tonight we look forward to honoring our water polo team, and I don't know if they saw, but they're memorialized in a photograph up here, so you're on the boardroom wall with your championship photos. So anyway, we're really excited, and we'll look forward to that in just a moment.
All right, and moving to that moment, we'll go to Section 4A, where we recognize the water polo CIF champions. Dr. Moore.
Yes, I'd like to call forward El Segundo High School Principal Steve Gephardt to share in this special event this evening. Welcome, Principal Gephardt.
Thank you, President Wheaton. Thank you, Superintendent Moore, and members of the board. And really, it's just a huge thank you and my honor to be up here. And I've done a few of these, I've had the pleasure of doing a few of these before. And tonight's, if you would indulge me, just a little bit longer than normal. I won't go too long at all because we know how the meetings can be, but I will at least go beyond the 60 seconds I usually have, because I was reflecting back on this season and this amazing group of young men that we have right here. And I had the pleasure of going to quite a few of their matches. And I was a neophyte at water polo. I didn't know much about it, but it hooked me early. But beyond even the season, I think if we're going to celebrate the undefeated season that they had in winning the CIF 3A championship, I think we've got to go back to the beginning. And really it started like this summer. The board was aware, I believe, but like this summer, the season could have turned out very differently. And it's a testament to the character of these boys, because a couple of the players on the team were in a car accident over the summer. And the unity that this team showed, and rather than like having the season go the wrong direction or having some of the players think, oh my goodness, what's going to happen, they rallied around those players, led by Coach Neela and the rest of the team. They rallied around those two players. And that bit of unity, I think from the start, that rallying point, is what kicked them off. And you don't have the season that these guys had without showing a level of unity and a level of commitment to each other and a level of sacrifice that they had. And so once they were able to sort of come together as a team and support their two players, they also started in the summer. I don't know if you're aware, but football gets all the publicity for what it does in the summer, and rightfully so, because football players are there. It seems like they don't take any time off in the summer. But this team, Coach Neela, even when she was heading off to Japan to compete in the World Masters herself as a water polo player, made sure that the team got together even before the season started. Led by Coach Dave, they had some off-season workouts, which we can use the term workouts. But if you've ever been in an area where you cannot stand, you don't get a break, because if you take a break, you sink. And so every workout that these guys put themselves through was a workout that was a test of their stamina. They didn't get to take a break unless they were out of the pool. And when they're in pool for hours, that just showed what they were doing. So before the school year even started, these guys are working out. Then they go to 2-a-days where they're working out for 6 hours a day. Then the year starts immediately. And once the school year started, they worked out 3 hours a day after school. And that just shows the level of commitment that each of them had to each other. And I'm going to give a little recap of the season, because I got to experience it from the beginning to the end. The season started with some scrimmages and some preseason matches, and then early in the season, they decided to go ahead and test themselves a little bit and schedule where they were. So they scheduled Santa Monica, who was one of their division opponents. And that was Coach Neela looking ahead and saying, we might see Santa Monica in the playoffs, and so let's go ahead and see where we are. And as you know, you don't go undefeated without beating everybody, so they beat Santa Monica. So they come back to their league, and rightfully so, they dominated their league, and they dominated every event. But they didn't want to just test themselves against teams that they could dominate. They wanted to test themselves against the teams they might see later or that would really bring out the best in them. So they went to Corona, and they won the Corona tournament. And so then they came back from the Corona tournament and continued to dominate. Then in the middle, they decided to play Redondo, and they beat Redondo. Then they have the South Bay tournament, which we hosted. And I got to say, you guys, I don't know if I would want to come to any of your houses because the type of hosts that you guys were at the South Bay tournament by beating everybody you played, that's, that's a different level of hosting. But they hosted the South Bay tournament at the ESAC. And of course, they beat everybody and brought home the trophy in the South Bay tournament. For the first time, I've heard two different things. And as only my second year as principal, I don't want to, swear to either of them. But the first time in at least a decade, from what I understand, if not the first time ever, the tournament that we host is the South Bay tournament, they won that one, which is really, really significant. And then from there, the victories just kept piling up. They went to other tournaments, they played league matches, to where they finished the season undefeated. And when you finish a season undefeated, or anywhere, anytime you're on the top, there's only one way to go, and that's down. You either maintain or you go down. And that could have added pressure. That could have made them feel like, man, our first loss could be the loss that sends us home. And instead of crumbling under that pressure, again, we talk about the commitment and the unity that this team had. They thrived under that pressure. They went to the playoffs, and they went their way all the way through the playoffs by beating everybody. But I must say that the quarterfinal match against University Irvine, double overtime, 18-16, 34 goals total, and a last-second goal to even tie it up and get into that overtime. I mean, that was one of the most amazing just sporting matches I've seen at this level, if not water polo in general. And if you're anyone who's ever played sports, sometimes the way the seedings and the brackets work out, the championship game isn't always the final game. That game against University High School in Irvine was the championship game. University had a player that really a D1 prospect, a guy who's going to a D1 college. And what these guys showed is a great team will beat a great player every single time. And that's what they did in that match. And so from there, they won two more matches, finished the season at 32-0, and finished the season undefeated. And it's something that can never be taken away from them. No one can ever say, we had a better winning percentage than you. And, what you might end up doing is being like the 1972 Miami Dolphins. They're a team that every year they have a party when the final NFL team loses, because they know that they'll still be the last undefeated NFL team. But even with all of that, I know that Clerk Glenn is going to give some certificates in a moment, but you don't achieve that type of team excellence without having some individual excellence as well. And so I've got a couple of certificates here that I'm going to give as well. But I just want to call out the students and the coach who were recognized by the CIF for overall playoff excellence or the CIF for just season-long league excellence. So when they come up, just know that some of these players, we're going to have Tristan Foster, who was voted All-CIF Player of the Year as well as Pioneer League MVP. Just a second, we'll get you, yeah. I know these guys are used to coming up and being recognized, but give me a second. When his name is called, Luke Giroux as well, who was nominated as All-CIF First Team and All-Pioneer League First Team. In addition to being All LA Times or Daily Breeze for his article. And Max Hale, who was All-CIF First Team and Pioneer League Co-Most Outstanding Player. Nolan Barnett, who's All-CIF Second Team and All-Pioneer League First Team. Carter Williamson, who's All-CIF Second Team as well as All-Pioneer League Second Team. Cooper Albano, who's All-CIF Third Team and All-Pioneer League Second Team. and Coach Nyla Ward, who was All CIF and All Pioneer League Coach of the Year. And I wanted to call out those individuals because the All CIF, that's the playoffs. That's the best of the best. All league, of course, is worthy of our respect and admiration, but all CIF as well. So in addition to Coach Neal, I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize all of the coaches that supported this team and supported these guys. There was also Dave Williamson, Aaron Arias, and Tyler Cantarsi. So with that, I think that's enough of a recap of the season now, as we saw from Tristan. Let's get them up here to start getting their certificates. But Coach Glenn, if you want to start calling the boys up. Yeah, you're a coach right now.
On behalf of the El Segundo Unified School District School Board, for proudly representing El Segundo High School Eagles and winning the CIF Division III Boys Water Polo Regional State Championships, we are gratified by your hard work and we are proud of your outstanding achievements. And I've got a certificate for each one of you, so when you come up, I'll call your name and then you can come and stand before the board and we're going to take a picture. So, stand behind. So Hayden Abbott. Go behind. Cooper Albano. Aaron Arias. Out here. Vinny Baldino. Nolan Barnett. Caden Burr. Chase Davidson. Out here. Seth Davis. Yeah. Logan Fassman. Congratulations. Sutton Fisk. Thank you. Congratulations. Tristan Foster. Congratulations. Luke Giroux. Congratulations. Max Hale. Will Kirker. Congratulations, Will. Andre Laval. Congratulations, Andre. Stefan Lazarevic. Did I get that right? It's close enough. Dane Mackerer. Not here. Nathan Morales. Austin Miller. Patrick Wang. Carter Williamson. And we got Neela Ward. Dave Williamson. Right here. And Tyler Contarsi. Oh, will I give you these? Or is that? I'll take them if you want. I can distribute.
Jack's picture.
No, no. All right.
Okay, what's up? I can do it first. Wait for Nathan to turn around. Everybody look at Dr. Blacken.
Thank you. What a great way to celebrate. All right. Now we'll move to Section 5, recognition of the outgoing board president. We'll turn to Dr. Moore.
Well, it's hard to believe a year has come and gone. So this is my moment to recognize President Daima Wheaton for her service. And following my remarks, then certainly the board will all have an opportunity to make remarks as well. But Board President Daima Wheaton, as the president, you led with dignity, grace, and compassion. Most notably, you provided leadership during a time of transition when we were all welcoming 2 new board members. That's a very important time for a governing team, when you welcome 2 members. This positive transition involved several special board meetings, which I'm sure you all remember, which allowed the governing team to establish norms and protocols. In addition, you actively served on various ad hoc committees, which included the City School Subcommittee, Richmond Street School, and the El Segundo Ed Foundation, which you served your meeting this morning with me. It was such a pleasure. Some of your significant accomplishments under your leadership included successfully welcoming the 2 board members, successfully dedicated and opened the new gymnasium at El Segundo Middle School, our shining star of $18 million under Measure ES. And that was the first building that the district has built in more than 20 years. So that will always be something very special. Successfully breaking ground also at El Segundo High School and community-based instruction building for the band. Successfully accepted and adopted the security recommendations for the 23-24 school year, which we were able to implement without any concerns. During your tenure, your most prominent recognitions as far as the district went was successfully earning strong CASP test results, and as evidenced by the California dashboard, both district English language arts and mathematics in El Segundo Unified now receive a very high rating, which will be blue, and is the highest recognition you can receive as a district. Successfully earned the highest rating of strong foundation on District Readiness Index in all categories, which included family and community engagement, financial management, leadership and governance, school personnel, and work environment. The district successfully ranked number 19 out of roughly 1,000 school districts in the state on the niche rating, and overall niche grade was an A+. El Segundo High School remained in the top 3% in the nation, as rated by U.S. News and World Report's Best High Schools. El Segundo Middle School earned a 2023 Schools to Watch recognition. Richmond Street School was recognized as a California Distinguished School. Both of those are actually on our wall over here, with your picture, just like the water polo players. And then lastly, both Center and Richmond Street Schools were recognized as Project Lead the Way Distinguished Schools. So congratulations on a wonderful tenure as president. Thank you for your leadership, your guidance, your empathy, your compassion, your dignity, and your grace. And on behalf of the district and the board, we have a little something. And while I'm giving this to you, I recognize other board members may have some words.
I'm going to go first because I met Daima the minute she walked into our district. Long, long ago, we were co-parenting our littles over at Center Street, and I enjoyed my time then. I've enjoyed all of the years in between, and your service as our president was no less enjoyable. Your poise, your professionalism, your grace is always such a beautiful role model for all of us. So thank you for your extra time and energy. I know there's a lot of that in that role. You've done a wonderful job, and we're so grateful.
Full commitment to everything, Daima. Okay? I mean, from we started together, we went through the process together, and people don't realize is that, you know, those elections are rough. Yeah. It takes a lot out of you, and this is not a paid position, and you are the consummate professional at everything. And your commitment gives us all a sense of security in our community. It gives us that strength in knowing that there is someone always there for this board, its representation. The amount of emails you had to write for all of us, I greatly appreciate. But it makes a difference. And the role of president is one of leadership, and you have done an amazing job in this transition with this board. It has run smoothly, unequivocally, together, not always agreeing, but always together. And that's something hard to accomplish. And I want to thank you for, you know, the difficult discussions, the honest discussions that you and I have had, and very grateful for you this year. So thank you so much.
When there's a steady hand on the helm, the ship moves firmly forward through both turbulent and calm waters. Daima, you have been that steady hand, steering the great ship of ESUSD through a variety of challenges and successes with graciousness, deep thoughtfulness, and poise. Your leadership is an inspiration for all of us. Our community is blessed by your presence.
Really? I have to follow that? Yeah, exactly. So I first met Daima in a little bit different note. I had her eldest child at Outdoor Science School and got to meet her eldest there, and then was grace enough to have her second child. So I met her as a parent first, and we had a lot of conversations, and it was wonderful. And then when I decided to run for this position, she was 100% there to help me through the process. And when Frank and I were elected last year, we were so lucky that she was our leader and held us by the hand and carried us along. She's been an amazing leader. We've had some great conversations as I'm her carpool driver. When we go places, I pick her up and and bring her places. So we've had some great conversations, and this community is lucky to have such a dedicated member, and I am honored to be amongst the 5 people I'm with Daima being an amazing leader. So we are all very lucky.
I am going to keep it together. I'm incredibly touched, and all I can say is that I will go to YouTube and rewatch what you all have said over and over and over again. All right. We will now move to Section 6, Election of Officers of the Board. We'll start with 6A, and we will elect our board president. May I have a nomination?
I'll nominate Meredith Beachley.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
What's there to say? It's a lovely hot seat.
All right. Haley, may I have your preferential vote?
Aye.
All board members in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those who oppose? Any abstentions? Motion carries 5-0. At this point, we will pause and we will switch seats. So we will take a,
No, we're going to wait. We're going to do the other election.
okay, we'll pause and pass the gavel.
Oh, boy. I can't hit it yet, though, can I? No. So we're going to move on to 6B, election of Board of Education Vice President. Do I have any nominations? Do
I'll nominate Frank Glenn.
I have a second?
Second.
Haley, your or any discussion? Haley, your preferential vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, got through that one. Okay, we're moving on now. All right. Election for Board of Education Clerk. Do I have nominations?
I nominate Michael Wagner.
Do I have a second?
No.
Second.
You could just say, oh,
I'm really good where I'm at right now. I like this. Thank you. I greatly appreciate it. I'd like to nominate Tracy Miller's honor key for clerk.
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
no, somebody doesn't want to sign extra papers. No, it does require extra duty. I get it.
It
Yes,
does.
you
That's the
have
thing.
many
No,
jobs.
he just doesn't want to read names at the.
I know. I appreciate it very much more. I really do. I am very grateful. But yeah.
Mike, did you want to do that before I made my second? You had me make a second, didn't
We
you?
make the second? Yeah. Okay. Are we having a discussion right now?
We are on.
No, I'm
discussion
talking
right
about
now.
after I seconded for you, then you declined.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I should have jumped first, but no, I greatly appreciate the gift and the honor of being that. But I want to start focusing on some other things, and I don't think it's fair, and eventually it's going to come down to the position, and so I really appreciate the opportunity. But happy where I'm at right now. My committee's everything. It's just working out good.
I appreciate that.
Just let everybody know.
So Haley, your preferential vote.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passed 5-0. Let's see, I forgot. Okay, now we're going to take a pause and rearrange seats and stuff. Except for Mike is going to stay right where he's at. Okay. All right. don't want to do that. All right, we ready? Here we go. All right, so moving on, we are going to start with 7, which is other business of organization meetings, and we are going to appoint the superintendent as secretary of the board.
I'll move appointment.
Is
Second?
that- Okay, Haley, your preferential, or discussion? Haley, your preferential vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 5-0. 7B, approval of the designation of the 2024 board meeting dates.
Move, oh, sorry, did you?
Dr. Moore?
On this particular item, these are for the regular board meetings. Obviously, in addition, we have special meetings throughout the year, which we work with the board to schedule as needed. I did want to note, it is our typical practice to have our meetings on the second and fourth Tuesdays. However, in December, there is a regulation as it relates to newly elected board member terms, and so we do have to go with December 17th.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Motion to accept the dates?
Second.
Discussion? Haley, your preferential vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. 7D, approval of the identification of management positions for the 23-20, oh, sorry, C, sorry. Approval of the assignment of board members for the various ad hoc committee 24. And we got a list of all of those that we're going to do a little shuffling of jobs, but I think everybody got what they wanted. So that's exciting. And I do thank Frank. He is going to take over as on ed for me because I'm going to continue on SCROC. So that was kind of the one change. And so I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
Discussion? Haley, preferential vote?
Aye.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. 7D, approval identification of the management positions for the 23-24. Dr. Moore, anything?
Yes, I'd just like to note that there are no additional new positions on here. It is the same positions as prior. Recommend approval.
So
Motion.
moved.
Second?
Okay, any discussion? Haley, preferential vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, 5-0. Moving on to 7E, approval of the resolution, certification of signatures for the board and district administrators. Dr. Moore?
Yes, this is done on an annual basis based upon any changes in personnel and newly elected board officials. I recommend approval.
I move to approve 7E.
Second.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Second?
Discussion? Haley, your preferential vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Vote passes 5-0. And we are moving on to Section 8, special presentations. Haley?
As we are winding down into winter break, we are finishing off these last few weeks strong. ASB has just completed a toy drive, and we will be delivering the toys to the children at Cedar Sinai, and we thank all of our students and teachers who donated to this drive. Choir had an amazing performance to get us in the holiday spirit, and orchestras is tomorrow at 6 p.m., which I encourage everyone to attend. Our drama production put on a spectacular play, Almost Maine. With all of our incredible performing arts students, we decided to not only do a student and athlete of the month, but also a performing arts student of the month, which was Milo Thomas and Isabella Gutierrez. Winter sports are in full swing, and the student sections have been so hype and spirited. Basketball has a huge league game tomorrow against North at 7 p.m., and I can't wait to see all the spirit. From 3:30 to 6, our business pathway will be selling merch and snacks in front of the gym for the earlier games. All of our seniors in the business pathway are also working on completing their internships, and a huge shout out to our cheer team for placing first in their recent competition, and we appreciate all you do around school for us.
Great, thank you. So moving on to 8B, update from El Segundo Ed Foundation. Krista?
Hello and happy holidays, board. It's so nice to see everybody, and saw many of you at the parade and many of you at Ladies Night Out, which is one of my wonderful things to say. We had a very successful Ladies Night Out this year, new venue. I thought it was just super keen to drive up to it and see the flashing lights, like, wow, I'm going to this party. I was super excited. So there might be more surprises next year, but we were very happy and thankful for everybody that came out to support us and that modeled, and all of our vendors. It was a wonderful evening. I also wanted to let you know that coming in the new year, that the Ed Foundation will have a new website. It's been redesigned. We're going to have a special business link just for our business partners to make it easier for them to stay in touch with us, to partner with us, to donate, to find out about things going on. And so that should be coming out, I believe, the second week of January. So take a look for that. And then also in February, late February, we should be bringing our lawn signs to your lawns. So we'll hopefully be partnering with NCL again to deliver the signs. They do an amazing job every year. Some of the NCL moms are on this committee, so I thank you. That's about it for me. It's pretty short and simple, and I just wanted to wish you all a happy holiday season, and I look forward to working with you in the new year. And on a side note, my beautiful friend, congratulations, and I'm happy for you.
Thank you, Krista. On 8C, update from our employee associations. Do I have anything from ESTA? There we go.
Hello, I'm Daphne Moot representing the Teachers Association, and want to begin by wishing you all happy holidays, and hope that everyone has a nice time spending time with friends and family over the 2 weeks. Coming up at Center Street, well, Richmond Street first, you know, they're working hard on their holiday program, so thankful to our, particularly the music departments, for what they're doing. Richmond Street teachers, many of them, are busy packing their rooms, getting ready for the big move, and we appreciate what they're doing, and getting ready for the ribbon cutting on January 5th. And I think I have something from the high school. Winter sports are in full swing and entering into their league portions of the season. So again, thank you. We wish you all happy holidays, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Daphne. Do we have anybody from CSEA? Nope. Okay. For 8D, presentation of the first interim report. Dr. Moore?
Yes, I'd like to call forward Kim Linz for the first interim report. Tonight you're going to hear a little bit of a different take on this, only because within the last 2 weeks we've had some interesting information come from Sacramento regarding the last taxes that were collected and adjustments in the out year as it relates to cost of living adjustment, which potentially could impact our finances in the future. So Ms. Linz typically only presents a single scenario, and so tonight you will hear a couple of different scenarios as we've been advised by the county office to definitely be more information than less. Welcome, Ms. Linz.
Thank you, Dr. Moore, President Beachley, to finally say that. Wow. Members of the board, members of the public who are listening. Yes, as Dr. Moore intimated, I know typically it's the same presentation with different numbers and you can kind of sing along, but it's going to be a little bit different this time because we are getting different information. But I started with, do I have this on correctly? Ah, there we go. I thought I had it on. So I started with a slide that probably looks familiar. And this would be our typical projection that we see. And typically at First Interim, we're working with the projections that were put out at adopted budget. And this is what we had at the May revised and adopted budget. So in purple, you see a much better year, June of 2022 at adopted budget, what we were projecting. In gold, you see the governor's budget revision in January of 2023. In blue, you see the May revise in May of 2023. And today I'm going to talk to you about the Legislative Analyst Office projection, which came out in December, just last week. So there have been quite a few changes. This is no longer a really accurate projection, unfortunately, of what our budget is going to look like. So there's a couple of things at play here, and I'm going to be a little more technical than I typically am in this presentation, just because I think it's important to understand how they all weave together. So to begin, there was a delay in the state and federal tax filing deadline, mainly due to wildfires. It was extended from April 2023, first to October 15th, 2023, and then again to November. And so those projections came in about $26 billion short, more than 50% short than what was projected in June of 2023 at adopted budget. That's a really significant shortfall. And the Legislative Analyst Office also projects an additional $30 billion shortfall in 23-24. The California economy is slowing, and there was an acknowledgement last year that the California economy was slowing, but because of the tax delays, the implications for that economic slowdown wasn't really seen until now we're halfway through the fiscal year. That was a 25% decline year over year in tax revenue between 2021 and 2022. There's an anticipation by the Legislative Analyst Office of flat growth in 23-24, with potential positive small growth returning in 24-25. That initial drop is similar to what we saw in the Great Recession. However, the good news is, don't panic, the state has tools that weren't available back then. And so we have some options available to us at this point. But the overall projection, and we've talked about this a little bit, but when the state and the Legislative Analyst Office does a projection, it's the previous year adjustment, because the 2022 taxes actually funded the 22-23 fiscal year, the current year, and then the upcoming year. And so what you'll see in the future is there's actually an adjustment downward in our allocations for 2022-23 that we'll need to deal with. The LAO provides a projection of economic growth over the next 5 years. They are projecting a 1% cost of living adjustment in 24-25. That is a drop from 3.94% that was projected at adopted budget. And they're projecting somewhere in the neighborhood of 2.25 to 2.5% in 25-26. Again, that's a drop from close to 3.5% at adopted budget. So those are pretty significant corrections. It is important to note that the LAO tends to be correct in their projections of the COLA, plus or minus 1%. So given that I just said it was a 1% COLA, that can make us nervous. I have seen projections as low as a 0.53% in 23-24, but we're going to move forward with the LAO projection. It was revised up a bit at CSBA in early December to 1.27. We had already started our projections, so we're projecting at 1%. In addition, just to let you know, it's not just the Legislative Analyst Office that is predicting a slowdown. The UCLA Anderson School of Management released its economic forecast last month as well, also anticipating really meager growth in both the U.S. and California economy. The projection for California is slightly better than the U.S. However, California also has measures that impact our economy that don't affect the rest of the country, namely weather events, wildfires, as well as the Fed raises interest rates. Our economy is very much based on borrowing. We have a lot of startups, we have a lot of tech industries, and so as those borrowing monies dry up, because interest rates go up, it affects the California economy more than other economies, other state economies. So what does that mean for Proposition 98? So Proposition 98 is the floor of the guarantee for funding for TK through 14 education in California. We've been talking over the past years that for every $1 increase to the general fund, we get an additional 40 cents. It works in reverse as well. So for every $1 reduction in the general fund, there's a 40-cent about reduction to the Proposition 98 guarantee. That means that there was a $99.6 billion over appropriation to Proposition 98 in 22-23. That's money we've already received. That now that guarantee is going to drop. And so that difference has to be made up. It's about a $7 billion appropriation in 23-24. And then the projection for 24-25 will be about $4.4 billion lower than anticipated at adopted budget. It's a pretty large reduction that we haven't really seen, particularly when you add that we're halfway through the fiscal year. So lots to adjust to. There will be an automatic deduction at adopted budget without the legislature doing anything, because they don't have to put anything in the Prop 98 rainy day fund. But that $16.7 difference has to be made up somewhere. And just to kind of give a visual to this, the blue is what was anticipated in the Proposition 98 guarantee at adopted budget. And the peach is what is now projected in the legislative analyst's report. I do want to point out that's not a zero base. That's a 90, right? So it's a $90 billion base. So it's not, it looks a little more drastic than maybe it is, but it is a pretty significant reduction. So in looking forward and how to address the shortfalls, both in the California General Fund as well as the Proposition 98 guarantee, there are a couple of options that the LEO puts forth. The first is they could do a mid-year cut, right? They could say, here's what you were guaranteed, here's what it is now, we're only going to give you this. Those kinds of things did happen in the Great Recession. It's not anticipated that will happen this time, and that's because we have the rainy day fund. Instead, what the LAO is recommending is that the Proposition 98 reserve be accessed to cover the shortfalls in 22-23 and 23-24. So there's about $8.1 billion available in the rainy day reserve for Prop 98 alone. It's anticipated about $7.7 billion would cover most of the 2022-23 shortfall, with another $450 million left for 23-24. If you remember the last slide, that does not cover the full shortfall. So there is also some recommendations of pulling back one-time funds that have not already been allocated. If you recall last year, that was how the budget was, that's how the shortfall was solved. We had funding that hadn't been allocated in the Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials grant that wasn't allocated. And we actually had to give back money in the Learning Loss Recovery grant because they had over-allocated and deferred that. So we could see some of that again. It is important to note also that Proposition 28, which is the proposition that passed in November of 2022 to fund arts instruction, is 1% of the Proposition 98 guarantee. So it too will drop. The board made a really good decision under Ms. Janicek and I work with the arts and music teachers, the VAPA teachers, to make a recommendation not to spend those funds this year, but to wait until we knew what our allocation was, so that we weren't over-allocating, and it turns out that was a really good decision. So once again, conservative budgeting is helping us out. Other budget pressures. We got a lot of one-time funding during COVID. This is the final year. A lot of that funding expired in September of 2023. This is our final year of that COVID funding. It all expires and has to be fully out the door by September 2024. You'll see in a future slide, all of that funding is either fully expended or fully allocated. In addition, I just talked about possible state grants that could be reduced. Universal Transitional Kindergarten will continue to expand. The state is, from what we hear, planning to still fund that expansion. So that was good news. The Expanded Learning Opportunity is our after-school program for high-need students. We combine that with our TLC program. Our funding in that program will drop. The way it's funded is high-need districts, those with more than 65% unduplicated count, receive a per-student allocation, and the rest of us split what's left over. So a lot more districts have started these programs, and therefore our allocation per student will drop in that area, and I'll be working with Ms. Gurjalva to make sure that that stays within budget. Universal Meals continues. Again, there's a commitment to fully fund. What we don't know is they've been reimbursing us at a higher level than the federal level. We don't know if that will continue with the new budget situation. And then the last thing I would just point out is a 1% COLA is a negative growth budget. We have fixed costs. Step and column as our employees move over, gain more years and then gain more education. STRS and PERS costs will continue to rise, and the inflation and cost of doing business has continued to rise. Inflation has settled down, but if you go to the grocery store, that $4 loaf of bread now costs $5. It's not going back to $4. It's going to stay right in that neighborhood of $5, and that's the case for everything that we're doing as a district in terms of doing business. This is a familiar slide. So this is just looking back historically over time at our COLAs, and you can see we're kind of back to that really painfully slow growth that happened as we came out of the Great Recession. And that was one of the challenges of the Great Recession as we came out of it, is that it wasn't that the economy wasn't growing, it was growing so slowly. Our expenses were moving faster than our allocations. In the bottom chart, you can see what we anticipated at adopted budget for COLA, and now what we're anticipating based on the current reports. As usual, I point out we are one of the lowest funded districts in the state because we do not have a significant percentage of high need students, mainly those that are identified as English learners, qualify for free or reduced lunch, or identified as foster youth. Our percentage actually fell another 0.5%. We actually, on this chart, sorry that the arrow needs to be adjusted, but we actually used to be above Palos Verdes. We dropped below Palos Verdes last year. And so now we're seeing our funding for supplemental programming for those students drop to below $1 million for the first time. I'm full of good news tonight. As I talked about before, our one-time COVID funds going all the way back to SB 117 in March of 2020, fully expended or fully spoken for. In addition, as we start to right-size our enrollment, we are bursting at the seams right now, which is always a good thing, but as we start to right-size our enrollment, we will see some enrollment reductions as well, combining that with COLA. So that just means when we have fewer students coming in, we have fewer dollars coming in with those students. But we really do need to right-size and make sure that our facilities can sustain the growth of our population. Pension liabilities. You can see that the red line, those are PERS costs. We do have forecasts from the PERS board. The STRS costs, you can say they level out at 19.1. Those are the state projections, but the STRS actually will get its own board that will set interest rates going forward. And so we will see those 19.1% rates adjust. They just haven't yet. With all of that, we are still forecasting a positive certification with a couple of caveats. Dr. Moore alluded to the fact that I've done a couple of projections. One is kind of what we thought it was going to be, what it is, and then how we navigate that. But we are anticipating we are filing a positive certification. So this is our multi-year projection with what we projected at adopted budget. This is actually what we filed with the county as our first interim. You can see that even with the higher COLAs, we were projecting some spending deficits. As we always do, we always have a bit of a spending deficit that we manage and control by watching it closely. But if you look at that blue line, we were able to maintain our requisite 3%, which is required. We're required in 25-26 to maintain a 3% reserve in order to file a positive certification. This is what it looks like with the LAO projections. So this is 8.22% at 23-24, 1% in 24-25, and again, that was revised just slightly upward, but it doesn't make that big of a difference. And then 25-26 at 2.5%. You can see that while we're able to maintain our 3% budget in 24-25, our deficits grow by $1 million in 24-25 and an additional $1.5 million in 25-26. And we actually end up at a negative reserve in 25-26 if we don't make any changes. So this is what we're recommending in order to sustain a positive certification. We've been very clear. We funded a number of positions using COVID funds and one-time funds. And we've been very clear since we put those positions in place that we would either find alternative funding for those positions outside of what's already allocated, or we would eliminate those positions when the one-time funds ended. As you know, Shea Wole, our fiscal director, and I are very conservative in our budgeting, and we actually carried those positions forward in the general fund just in case they weren't eliminated. So just by eliminating those temporary positions, which we've always planned on eliminating, we actually come back into a positive certification and we're able to meet our required reserve percentages. But it doesn't mean the elimination of those positions or alternative funding if that is available. On the restricted side, it looks pretty much the same because the major impact is to the unrestricted side. You can see in that first year, we're spending down the rest of our COVID funds. In the 2 subsequent years, we're spending down additional one-time funds. We have some educator effectiveness grant funds. We have the learning recovery grant. We still do have some funding in the music, arts, and instructional materials grant. Those all will be spent down by 2025, 26. And then just as I always state, we're required to tell you our reason why we have reserves. This is the reason why we have reserves. Each of these we've experienced in the last 3 years, so I don't need to go through all of them, but it does make sense for us to maintain healthy reserves. We still will be under the 10% reserve requirement, which means we have to be over 3% in that final year, but we can't go above 10%. And finally, we'll submit this report. It is an action item for the board to accept later on in the agenda. We'll submit that to the Los Angeles County Office of Education, who will submit a letter to the board president and Dr. Moore of their evaluation of the budget. And then we will get more information in January at the governor's proposed budget. The LAO advises the legislature, the Department of Finance advises the governor. They don't always have the same projections. So I think what we'll see January through May is a lot of flux in what's being projected. And we'll just kind of ride that out and continue to make conservative, fiscally prudent recommendations to the board. And then finally, we'll have a budget study session in February. We'll share the new information that we get in January. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
No, I just have some comments. First, I just want to say thank you because you mentioned it, and I think you answered all the questions that were popping in my mind. But I know Member Lane 2 years ago, and I sat here and we had these discussions about one-time monies, and after COVID, it was all our districts were flush, and we made really overt comments to remind people that it wasn't going to last and that we were going to have to tighten the belt and we were going to have to see some of the things that we were doing now disappear. And unfortunately, we're at that point now. But a couple of things. First, thank you very much. And I think you gave us credit in regards to like the art grant. But I remember having those discussions and you bringing that advisement to us and saying, we're going to take it, but we're not going to spend it because we're going to end up having to give it back. And that kind of foresight in this district is not what other districts do. They'll go and spend it because they think it's unlimited. And we have been given great advice to be where we're at, and we knew these one-time monies was going to keep us at an even level. And I think people don't understand is in those reserves, if we go over 10%, we have to spend the money. If we're under the 3, then we get a negative rating, and it doesn't help our district at all. Where we're at is perfect, and it's because of that conservative budgeting. It's because of the oversight, and so thank you very much for all that. And in watching this, I can just tell you as a teacher, I'm a little depressed about the COLA, but I'm glad that we were able to help our faculty this last year and in those negotiations and making sure they were recognized. And, because it's in these tough times, money is morale in certain instances, and, we can and can't give it sometimes, and we're coming up to those. And so I'm just glad we were able to do these things. We were able to do budget the way we were because of this foresight. So thank you.
Thank you.
So it's at times like these that I look at you and I'm thankful that you are in the seat that you are in. Your leadership combined with your team gives me comfort because there's never a scenario where a 1% negative budget growth works at a time where inflation is what it is. It means that we have less to do more. Less money, but there are more needs for our students, and I feel confident knowing that we will find a way. We have a track record of making consistently great decisions that have helped to guide our district. The only thing that I really struggle with is this reserve piece, is that it's governed that we can't go over a certain amount, and yet we budget based on amounts that the state tells us we will have, and then at the last minute, they pull the plug. If we had the ability, and I know this is a lobbying thing, so it has nothing to do with where we are today, but I am happy, again, this reinforces why I'm so happy to have you in the seat that you are in, because some of these decisions aren't governed by us, and yet we have to absorb the consequences related to those decisions. So it's just a simple kudos. Thank you. Thank you for keeping us informed as a board and for making the decisions that keep us in good standing.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I just want to say, in looking at all these lovely documents over the weekend, my stomach dropped when I looked at like the restricted adopted budget, beginning balance 18, and the next one was beginning balance 13. I'm like, oh, that hurts. But, you know, again, the transparency that we've maintained through your management and our decision making up here about those one-time funds and just how this works is why I can catch my breath and go, okay, yeah, we're gonna be fine. And I really do, like everyone said, appreciate how well you. What's the captain steering the ship thing you were talking about earlier, Frank? Right here. Like I'm gonna throw it over here now. Kim's now the captain of this, but yeah, I think the only question I had, like in reading all this, was the ELOP, when we talk about that portion having concerns. I know you'll work with Ms. Grijalva and everything on how we do that. Is there anything we should know at this point?
I think that we'll look to see, so that's another fund that we actually have spent, we spend the funding, we've been allowed to spend the funding a
Right.
year after we receive it. So
Right.
we're working kind of a year
Out.
behind, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's been a nice option for us, provided by the state. That was provided because so many districts were delayed in starting that program. I'll
Right.
give Ms. Grijalva full credit. She barged ahead, she put in a great program in place, and we were one of the first ones really in the South Bay to really have that program. So we'll work together. We've already started to talk on, are there things we need to pull back on? Are there adjustments we need to make as we kind of look at that funding dropping down a bit? We don't have right now, we get funded on all of our students, TK through 6, that qualify, even if they don't attend. So if that funding model could shift, and then we'd have to make some additional adjustments. But she and I have already started having conversations, and with Dr. Moore as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I actually know other districts, I've heard things that they don't manage this very well. And out just don't do some of the things that they're supposed to do. And we're not like that, and I appreciate that. So thank you for.
You actually bring up an excellent point, too, that I usually address that I didn't, which is those one-time funds, the reason the deficits are so large is they were allocated 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. So we were given a big chunk of money, and 2 and 3 years ago, we were given a big chunk of money that we had several years to spend down. And we made, as a cabinet and a board, we made decisions to spend those a little bit each year on programs that we could sustain. And we're just at the end of those years.
Well, thank you for all of this information and everything you're doing moving forward as the captain in this moment.
Yeah, Kim, likewise, thank you for your clarity and your transparency. And outside of, being in public, when you helped us with workshops going through and making us, because I know we had a reserve that was up in the 9%, and your worst case scenario showed us going into a negative 1%, but you've figured out how to make it work, so we'll be right in a sweet spot, right in the 5.5%. And I think that's a great place to be, especially in these kind of turbulent times. And thank you for your foresight.
Thank you.
I thank you. I certainly thank this district. I lived through, I was teaching during the last major recession, and the one thing I did, nobody appreciates furlough days and all of those things that we lived through. But this district, because of our board and because the way we run our district, conservatively and smart, we were one of the few districts that got away with 5 furlough days. There were some districts that were 10 for 3 years. We had 1 year of 5 furlough days, and that was because we've run this district conservatively and smart, and we continue to do that. So I appreciate all the work that y'all do, that the cabinet does, and that everybody does, so that we can give our kids the best that we can, with sometimes funding that, you know, we all know how funding works. They promise us things and they don't always happen. So, so we certainly appreciate all that this district does to make it as good as it is for our kids.
Thank you, and I should just add, I have an incredible team as well. I don't do this alone.
Okay, that's it.
Is that it, everybody? Okay. Before we head to consent agenda items, Dr. Moore?
Yes, I wanted to mention in the consent, there was one adjustment in the date that was made. Consent item 9Q, which is the classified study on classification and compensation, that the correction was made in the board docs from February 2025 to February 2024. Obviously, we want to get started on that right away, and so I did go in and make that correction. Wanted to call it to your attention prior to any voting taking place.
Thank you.
Okay, so consent items. Do I have approval?
I'll move approval on items A.
Oh, do we have any, I'm sorry. Do we have any polls?
No polls.
Okay.
All right. I'll continue to move approval on items A through X.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to bring everyone's attention to a couple of items. One is item K, which is approval of the ESHS Avid College Tour, which is for high school future collegiates. It's a tour of the Northwest, and what I particularly like about it is in the language we state that if there's a student who has financial hardship, that we would help them go on that tour. The other one I'd like to bring attention to is item L, which I'll just read a little bit about. It's a consultant that we're approving. The consultant will facilitate teams of professionals in El Segundo Unified to develop and implement areas for AI competencies within the graduate profile. And again, I want to commend our district. We had our AI kickoff on Monday, and it was very informative, and it just shows what a forward-thinking district we are, in that this is something that's coming to us fast, and the district is taking a leadership role in looking at how AI will be implemented in schools, and commend the district for its actions.
Thank you.
Now I got one thing to say. Now that you're pointing out exciting things, I was excited to see item P, the student internships. What an impressive list. So thank you to Ms. C and everybody at the high school, whoever's jumping in to make that list happen. And thank you to our local businesses that are, and even a couple not so local, but thank you. Like, our students need these opportunities, and I'm so excited to see this robust list. So just if we approve that, I just want to say thank you.
And not just a robust list, but so different.
Yeah.
So different. There were
Such
so
great
many different
opportunities.
choices, which was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to call attention to item S and X. S is ratification and approval of an agreement with Facilitron, and X is about an agreement with Brightview Landscape. So both of those are very important because those will assist us in being a better partner with our city, and this assists us with the joint use agreement implementation.
Thank you for your fast work on implementing things in the joint use agreement, if we approve this.
Absolutely. So with that, we're going to go ahead and vote. Haley, your preferential vote.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? 5-0. Moving on. So we're going to move on to action items. Item 10, acceptance of gifts.
Oh, that's what a clerk does. All right. Stand by while I get ready for that. In accordance with Board of Education Policy Number 3290, the Board of Education may accept gifts as long as there is no conflict with the Education Code or other public laws. The school district has received generous donations as detailed following, and these do not conflict with any Education Code or public laws regarding acceptance of gifts. We have JW Photography for $1,500 going to Richmond Street School. Kroger, $612.88 going to El Segundo Middle School. The El Segundo Rotary Club, $2,500 going to the high school. King Solutions, Coca-Cola Give, $36.81 to El Segundo High School. And Nathaniel Ibarra, $6 for the district. With that, I move acceptance of these gifts.
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you.
And you always do. Haley, preferential vote?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Moving on to 10B, Dr. Moore.
As you heard from Ms. Lenz, we've presented the first interim report to you. This is the regulatory action to certify the district's financial condition, and I recommend approval.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? I think we've already had that.
Been there.
Okay. Haley?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none is 5-0. And 10C, ratification. Dr. Moore?
Yes, this is in regards to 210 Penn. We have two individuals who lease. This is with Element 13, and it is for 2 years and an increase from $6,300 a month to $6,500 per month. And that's in keeping more with what the current rates are here in El Segundo. I recommend approval.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Haley, your preferential vote? Aye. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Passes 5-0. Moving on to 10D. Dr. Moore?
Yes, we're bringing approval for Alder University for 24-25. Dr. Gooden participated in interviews, and we're happy to say that we look forward to hosting 3 residents for the following year. This has been a wonderful program for us, and we're getting people who are really vested in El Segundo Unified, and it's very exciting to see. So it's been a wonderful partnership with Alder. I recommend approval.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? I will just say, we've had some amazing teachers come out of this program who are currently on staff and have done an amazing job. So it has certainly been a great.
Did I
Okay.
miss, was there an indication on what areas are they single?
We're going to have one in special education, one in biology, and one multiple subjects elementary.
Awesome. Awesome.
Okay. Haley, preferential vote?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Passes 5-0. 10D, approval of obtaining an agreement with Western Governors.
Yes, this is a required action in order to allow student teaching to take place with individuals who are attending their preparation program. We actually have an employee who is trying to become a teacher, and so we really support this type of an opportunity for our employees and recommend approval.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Haley, preferential vote?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Passes 5-0. Moving on to 10F. Dr. Moore?
10F is in response to statutory minimum wage increases. So we have 2 different salary schedules, one specific to our student workers and then one classified position. So this will align with the required minimum wage as of January 1, which will put them at $16 per hour.
I move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Haley, preferential vote?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Passing 5-0. Moving on to 10G. Dr. Moore?
Yes, this is for PBK, and it's approving a change in funding. So this would allow for use of multiple fundings regarding the district-wide mechanical HVAC unit replacement project. So we're moving to consider use of Measure ES, deferred maintenance, and AB 86 reopening grant. And so we'd use all those three to help pay for the PBK design services.
I move approval.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Thank you for figuring out what money to spend best where. We appreciate that.
Haley, preferential vote?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 0. Passes 5-0. 10H. Dr. Moore?
Yes, we have an amendment to the lease-leaseback agreement with Air Masters Air Conditioning. And in this item, I know Dr. Bill Watkins would be happy to see that we're purchasing HVAC units for the Performing Arts Center. So when he was on the board, he told me, you need to get some air conditioning in there. So you can tell him, Frank, that it's happening. Yeah, yes, he may well be. So Dr. Watkins, this one's for you.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Just again, thanks. You know, these lease backs gives us the option to be able to get this stuff quicker than going through this process. And, you know, the kids need it. Everybody needs it over there. So thank you, Kim, for.
Having sat in that auditorium
Yeah.
when it, in the back when it's hot, I appreciate this. Haley?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passes 5-0. Moving on, 10I. Dr. Moore?
10I is always a time to celebrate. Notice of completion for the HVAC upgrade project for the K building at the high school. I recommend approval.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a happy dance. Every
Exactly.
time. Notice of completion.
Completion is
when there's
always
a-
a happy dance, right?
When there's ever AC, it's a happy day.
True. Haley, your preferential vote.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. And that passes 5-0. Moving on to information pending action. Dr. Moore?
Yes, I'll make remarks about both A and B. A is just a preview of our single plans for student achievement, and they'll be brought back for the board's consideration for approval on January 9th, as well as a board policy and administrative regulation in the area of human resources. And there's no action required on either of those.
Okay, so we are moving on to reports. And reports, item A is the informational calendar. Dr. Moore?
All right, for our informational calendar, we have tomorrow there's performances at the PAC, and it's El Segundo Middle School groups will be there performing. And then we have, some of this is cut off, the middle school, we have the band, we have the Winter Sing at Richmond Street on the 15th in the morning, and Center Street on the 21st. And we have winter recess from the 25th of December until January 5th. We also have on January 5th our dedication and ribbon cutting for our new facility at Richmond Street, 9 a.m.
Thank you. And then for 12B?
12B, the winter sports season schedules are posted for transparency and for the board and the public's knowledge.
And C also?
Yes, just once again posted for transparency.
Okay, here we go, guys. So we're moving on to announcements, correspondence, and reports. Board members' reports and discussion. Daima.
Thank you. All right, so we have been busy. I will start off, I'm not going to go necessarily in any order, but I do want to start off with one thing that I think is super important for our district, and that is I attended the AI kickoff event, and I'll say what I said this morning when I attended the Ed board meeting, and that is we are so fortunate as a district to move in this direction. But not only are we moving in this direction, the person who is taking the lead on this just happens to be our superintendent. And why that is important is because we know that this is being held at the top, and what happens, what falls from the top, touches everyone as it cascades down. I also want to take a moment to recognize that ESUSD was selected as one of only 12 districts in the nation to be accepted into the EdSafe AI Alliance's AI Policy Lab. So we are taking great strides in this area, but we are also being recognized and partnered with other communities that are taking leads. And again, I will say this, only one of 12, we are one of 12 districts in the nation. So the nation, not just California. So I am very excited to get one of those slots. All right. I mentioned earlier that I attended the Ed board meeting, and I just want to take a moment to celebrate our CFO of Ed, who is doing a great job to be a steward of the funds that they collect from the families and community members who contribute. They are making great strides to make the dollars work so that they can help to contribute to our district. And coming off of the heels of Mrs. Lynn's telling us, unfortunately, the grim reality of what's happening with the state, it's incredibly important. So speaking of which, they have the Ed Gala, which is, please mark your calendars, May 10th, 2024. Always a great celebration, supports our schools, but we also get to mingle as a community. I attended the high school choir concert. The highlight of that is having the alumni members come on stage and sing that song. And we have our very own student body president who is on that stage singing, representing. I'm not sure how you do it, but you do a lot. We see you and we appreciate you. So thank you for showing up. We attended the Chamber of Commerce mixer at Citizen. That was my first time attending. I heard that this is the first time that it's been reintroduced in 4 years. I believe it was taken away during COVID, but we had it again, and it was definitely a nice event to attend. We attended the CSBA conference, just a host of information, a wealth of information, and it was nice to represent the school district as well as receive the rich information that was shared there. I also attended the ladies' night out, Barbie theme. So when they said pink, I don't know, I just got super excited because, I happen to have a lot of pink, although you probably only see me in black and blue, but never mind that, I do own a lot of pink. But again, another opportunity to celebrate as a community and to do it while giving back to our schools. And then lastly, I want to say that at this time, I am so honored to support our new president, Meredith Beachley. I do want to tell you that you stand firm, and I am so proud to stand with you. I want you to know that if needed, when that road gets tough, that firmness that you stand on, I want to be there to protect your feet, and I will serve as your shoes to cover those feet for any rocky road you have to travel. And I do mean that. I support you 100% because your success is our success. Thank you.
It's going to be tough because, I mentioned in discussing Daima previously, that's a lot that she did in a short time because I thought I did a lot and it's nothing. So, but I believe in providence, and I want to tell you a funny is because you know, this new Eddie Murphy movie that they filmed in town last year came out. Naima had mentioned it. I was like, I'm gonna go check it out, and I'm not very good at the internet stuff, you know. And yeah, and you know, went to the Netflix, and then, you know, my little one told me it ain't on that one, but it wasn't working, so I kind of freaked out. But this is all getting to my point. So then, you know, I'm calling the cable company, and they're like, we don't have nothing to do with Netflix, guy. And, you know, so I'm all over the place. But it ends up that, you know, I come to our tech meeting, and, you know, if you asked me as a teacher 20 years ago how dependent we would become on these kind of platforms, I would have said never. And I remember I was one of those guys that was resistant to it. You know, I got the phone call, hey, you got to start using your email. You got to stop faxing everything, Mike, you know. And so legitimately had that conversation. And, you know, but ultimately I sat in this tech meeting with Mr. Ghana and Mr. Plotkin. And, you know, I think one of the things I learned, you know, if it doesn't fall in usually it falls under a business dynamic. It doesn't here. It falls under our education dynamic under Ms. Janasek. And, you know, those connections that exist and the conversations that they're happening, we had just a really great meeting. And I'm watching, you know, our cabinet members, our administrators make these really comprehensive decisions about what our kids are going to need technologically. They're getting the parents' input. And, you know, as a board member, parent, you know, and as a teacher, I'm gotten to see it all. And so how grateful I am for that robust discussion that we had there and the decisions that are being made. And I can just tell everybody, you are in great hands in regards to how this process is going to work and the fact that it falls under our educational umbrella. And so, because I couldn't even get the movie, I couldn't even get the movie on. So, it was a great way to see our, you know, robust technology being, and, you know, there's a discussion about platforms in regards to iPads and Chromebooks, and, you know, we understand that our kids are going to need certain things in certain times and instances, and it's being well handled. And so I was really grateful to see all that. You know, I didn't get to attend a lot of stuff with you guys. I had other commitments, but you guys, and I'm so grateful that you were all able to attend those things. You know, and I got to attend the football banquet this weekend, and just thank you to all the families and the young men. And I think Mr. Gebhardt talked about it today in regards to the commitment that the water polo team makes. Every team that is a part of our programming here lives out those commitments, and you know, it was just wonderful to be there, hear the kind words that they had for each other, and for, it was just great. It was really a fabulous thing to finish the year, and I think that's what culminates those things. And so I was really glad to be a part of that, you know, with the boys and the football players there. It was really great. So thank you for that. And you guys picking up the slack gives me that opportunity, so I'm gratefully appreciative there. I'm going to be in my other committee, but we haven't had that meeting yet, so I'll report next time. See you guys there. But I do want to say just one last thing. You know, in my inquisitive nature to find out about our technology, you know, one of the things I came to realization in discussing there was, you know, we face some really major things in our technology. And, you know, it's like I became dependent on this Netflix thing, right? And I'm freaking out over it because I just want to see Eddie Murphy and laugh, right? And I've, you know, and it translated when at the meeting, because we've had incidents. We had a fire that would have put us down for months. I'm talking about months, and we were up in days. And, you know, having and being a part of that discussion, Mr. Ghana, thank you so much. You know, I remember having those discussions about redundancy and we need to put something off site. And I remember those were difficult discussions because about the money. But, you know, time is money. And if we had lost that time, I think it would have been a huge detriment. And so thank you again for all the foresight the cabinet is doing in our educational process. You know, how I've watched my own children use those devices to enhance their education. And so just great opportunity for me to be a part of that committee, and glad to do it. And so, you know, everybody, if you have questions, please come and talk to our cabinet, and you know you're well taken care of. So thank you.
All right. Okay, I'm going to go down my list of things that have been happening, make sure I cover it all quickly. So I'm going to go starting with the wider geography. We had a great meeting for LAXTA the last Monday in November. It was virtual. My biggest takeaway to share with my fellow board members is, if you have an interest, participate in the board trustee mentorship program, where you will be matched up with others from other districts to learn from each other, to think outside the box, think outside our bubble, all those things. And I'm going to run that program, so I'm going to encourage you all to be part of that. So, just saying. And then LAXTA was also present in a big way at CSBA, the AAC. We had our opening night gathering for like LA people to come together and meet each other. So you had familiar faces like going through the rest of the convention. I think that was a nice moment of fellowship. I appreciate all y'all that were able to attend, and we did miss you. That we appreciated that you were there and got to mingle with some of those folks and sort of learn who your colleagues are. And more locally, it was fun to attend the tree lighting ceremony the other night in the city center. And here was Jingle Bells with Jingle Bell Rock. I'm not really sure what our students and the city council were singing, but it was cute. It was fun. Nice part of all the joyfulness and activities that were happening out there. And then some of us did move over to the chamber event, which, yes, was a nice restart of a tradition that had been happening before. Again, a good time to mix with our business members that are supporters of our district, and our council people and other local folks doing good things. And then other campus-based things, yes, big kudos to Dr. Moore for the AI initiative that launched in our PAC and will move forward in various town halls. So I encourage everybody to try to drop by one of the town halls that are coming up. And it was definitely a big concern at the convention in the state. AI was all over the place, including one of the general sessions. So it's a big thing. I appreciate that you are leading us down this path, and that we are inviting our stakeholders to be part of this whole new journey into more than Netflix and Amazon Prime and all those things. No, but really, this is the next wave of what we have to figure out in the digital world. So thank you for being a forerunner in that. Yes, the high school choir performance was lovely as always. I'm sitting there getting weepy every year with the song that the alumni come up and do, but it is such a beautiful coming together. So thank you for everyone putting that together. I'm sorry I can't attend the middle school performances this week because I have work commitments elsewhere, but I will be present for the elementaries for their winter sing project. So that'll be another fun time for me to get weepy. With that, I'll just say thank you, all of you, for serving and working so hard. And I hope all of you up here and all of you out there and watching from home have a great 2 weeks off to enjoy your family and friends. That's it for me.
Thanks. So I'm going to start off with a quick report from the high school PTSA. So I don't think I'll be with them next year. I'm going to miss being with Cheryl, but she's great for sending reports, by the way. So she has you covered. So coming up on the PTSA calendar in next year on January 10th, Wednesday, January 10th, the PTSA will be hosting a reflections reception honoring our creative students who had submissions in the reflections competition. It will also be the PTSA general membership meeting with a special presentation by ESHS counselor Ms. Burns on the topic of emerging adults / parent support. Ms. Burns will answer the hot topic questions our parents have about supporting their students. On Saturday, January 20th, the PTSA will host CPR Saturday and will also be running a mock SAT. I'm not sure if those two things are connected, but anyway, they might be. Mock SAT fundraiser. The PTSA appreciates everyone's continuing support and dedication. Then after the conclusion of our last board meeting with other board members, we had the good fortune to catch the last full ESHS band rehearsal before they headed to Sacramento for a successful appearance at the Western High School Band Association Championships. And congratulations to our band director, Ken Harrison, and his team for a fantastic year. With our other members, I had the occasion to attend the California School Board Association Annual Convention. It was a great opportunity to bond with fellow board members and our cabinet members who attended, learning and sharing experiences with other districts, large and small, throughout California. The major topics of conversation were integration of AI, as we've mentioned, sustainability, and juggling our finite financial resources. I also attended the choir concert, and I had that moment where I said, I know her. So, Haley, it was great to see you up on stage, but Miss Summers stole the show. I don't know what you call that when she just took over, but that was amazing. Yeah. And I also attended Almost Maine, and that was a very creative and interesting play in that it gave students that individual opportunity to be on the stage, by themselves or in pairs. So it was very engaging and very well done. And last Sunday, I enjoyed cruising down Main Street atop a gold 1959 Ford Thunderbird. And I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for extending the invitation to all of us to enjoy and be part of that event. Thank you.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying, that everybody kind of takes care. So I attended almost all of those things as well. I was at the play, I was at the concert, I was at the chamber mixer. The AI thing was amazing. CSB, I want to just take a moment because I actually did some leadership training with the thought that maybe I would be taking this position tonight. And I thank my colleagues here for trusting me in this position. What I learned in that training more than anything, though, and what I got from that training, is how lucky we are to be in the district that we are with. As board members, yes, we have to make some tough decisions, but we are in a far, far, far better place than a lot of other districts out there. I heard some horrible horror stories of some of the things that school board members are having to deal with. And the fact that I consider the five of us a team. I gave all of my members today little ducks. We're going to get all our little ducks in a row this year. So that was our plan. We're going to have all our ducks in a row. I'm just humbled at the opportunity. The one ad hoc that I do go to that nobody else gets to attend is my SoCal Rock meeting. And I'm really glad I get to continue on that path. We have come so far in a year. We celebrated last night all of the accomplishments that we did in a year, and it was pretty incredible. We had a new superintendent. We've added Harper College dual enrollment. We're working with El Camino. We're leasing property. We are doing so many wonderful things. We set some new dates. The one thing that we did discuss, we did our interim, which was, it was worse than the one we listened to here. The other thing that we talked about a little bit was I want to remind our students who are going to SoCal Rock, and I hope there are more as we continue, but we do provide transportation through Hop, Skip, Drive. we want our students to be able to get to SoCal Rock free of charge, and take these amazing classes. Our request is, however, that if you are going to do that, that you actually go. We've had a lot of, not just El Segundo, but just in general, we've had a lot of students that are canceling their rides. And if they cancel with less than 2-hour notice, we get charged. And so that is a financial piece that we're going to have to work on. So if you are one of those students, you may not know that we're being charged for those rides. So please, please make sure that you are taking your ride or calling ahead of time. We're also trying to add some classes. So if you have some ideas, suggestions, thoughts, we are certainly open to those. And with the new classes, hopefully with some college credit, that's a bonus. So I think that's the last of my report, and I'm going to move on to Dr. Moore. Sorry, it's Haley first. Sorry.
All good. Next week before break, we have our annual Powerpuff flag football tournament, which we are all very excited about. You'll probably see teams practicing every night out there. And also, don't forget the orchestra concert tomorrow night, and I appreciate all of your support at the choir concert.
Now, Dr. Moore.
I just want to say happy holidays to everyone. Just really take time to enjoy your families and friends. This is the time of year to really do it. I too really enjoyed it being in the parade. Marcia does an amazing job coordinating, facilitating that, and it was a special joy to me because Maisie Moore, my little granddaughter, the little princess of the family, got to ride in the parade with me along with my son and daughter-in-law. So I feel blessed. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we do not have to go back to closed session. So we are going to adjourn this meeting at 7:43.